Welcome back into Dot Talk, Season 16, Episode 2, and Segment 3 of this week's episode as we wrap up our interview with GLB agent SIGAP Magic Mike. Well, Season 13 is gone now. We're in Season 16, and one of the things that's been happening the last couple of seasons, especially since Catch was brought in as sort of the PR guy, I guess, if you will, for Goal Line Blitz, a lot of changes going on. What do you think about the changes that's rolled out? What do you like? What do you not like? What are your thoughts on the changes?
They're growing on me. I don't particularly care for the multi-train stuff. It is what it is. One of the Pee Wee teams that I'm on, I participate pretty much in all levels of GLB. One of the Pee Wee teams that I'm on, the owner of the Maine Grenaders, we just call him RK, because I really don't know how you would pronounce his name, but he actually kind of did a whole bunch of math and everything like that, and we're kind of using the multi-train system, and it's working out pretty good, but it definitely has kind of taken us on a slow start. So, but I think as the season progresses, I think we'll end up, with a higher skill point advantage over most, once that training, really starts to kick in over time. But I'm not a big fan of the multi-training. The promos and stuff, I think that's actually pretty cool. Yesterday, for the Black Sea Storm was actually Player Appreciation Day, and my quarterback, Mike Thomas, gave out, 5,000 free jerseys or whatever. So,
Nice.
It is what it is. I'm not a big fan of the training, the stadium stuff, the halftime shows and travel, that's all okay. But the part, I guess, that irritated me more than anything was that the preseason games, you couldn't even use the morale bank that you had. So those games were actually different, than what the actual regular season games were. So if you're trying to prep for anything for the regular season, even the scrimmages, the ranked scrimmages or whatever, you couldn't even get the morale bank in to really test things to see what players really needed, what.
Yeah.
But now they actually have the option where you can use the salary bonuses or whatever. So, that I'm not a real big fan of, but overall, I mean, it's okay. I did kind of think it was funny that, this coaches discussion had been around for so long, and that was the first thing that they, jump back on, hey, we're going to delay it for a season, when I thought that would probably be the easiest implementation of all, just because of all the discussion, several seasons ago whenever they were wanting to bring it in on us. So,
yeah,
that's just kind of my take on it. I think it's okay. I think the salary cap stuff is cool because, it really kind of does even the playing field just a little bit, but there's also a little bit of strategy involved with it, which makes it kind of cool, which I've kind of been trying to, really hone in on how this different stuff works so that, if there's any sort of advantage that I can give any of my teams that I'm associated with, then, I definitely want to do that.
Cool. And if you had control of GLB, say you controlled GLB for a season or so, what would you change? What can you think of that you could make better in your opinion?
Well, I would definitely add 2-point conversions. I think it's long overdue.
Oh, yeah.
That would be my one thing that I would fix in GLB is have 2-point conversions.
Well, not bad. And I know Catch has been saying, I've seen him mention it several times since he took over the position, but talking about going in and changing the way you do tactics, streamlining that and making it a little bit easier for coordinators and not having so much burnout maybe associated with that. Is that something you might be interested in seeing coming down the pipeline?
Well, that's all fine and dandy. The adjusting the tactics and things like that aren't the tedious part. You have to be a good coordinator, you really have to watch the other team play and see what they do. And then you have to look for the fine details on what their defense is doing. That's the tedious part, is the scouting. Setting tactics and stuff like that, that's the easiest part of the job to me. But, if somebody's just, okay, well, we run this play good, let me go in here and add this and, da-da-da-da-da, and then, that's it. That's one thing. But, actually to be a good coordinator, you have to sit down and you have to watch your opponent formation by formation. Okay, how do they line up against the I formation? How do they line up against the pro formation? What's their corner doing? What's their safeties doing? You really have to look at all the fine details to be a good coordinator. And if you're not doing that, you're not really. I would say that you're not really doing it right, so to speak, for all the wannabe coordinators out there. So that's kind of my take on it. I don't think streamlining tactics would be a big. It would be cool, yeah, but the tedious part is just scouting, and that's where you get all your information at.
Yep, that's pretty much why I don't coordinate. That's not my domain. Coordinating and math and training, I pretty much wait for everybody else to do the math for me, and then I take over. So I'm pretty much in the dark this season, waiting on everybody to figure out what the best training methods are, so I can steal it and put it on my guys next season.
That's basically kind of where I'm at as well, because I'm not a math guy at all, which people may find funny, but I cannot stand math for the life of me, and I just I'm kind of like, okay, well, you tell me what to do, and I'm a smart enough guy, I can figure it out. But yeah, I mean, I'm with you. The training stuff is kind of just over my head a little bit, I guess.
Yeah.
So I'm kind of doing some things that some people have suggested in a lot of the team forums that I'm in and stuff like that, and kind of going that direction. So we'll see what happens in the end. But
well, cool. Well, SIGAP Magic Mike, it has been a pleasure to have you on Dot Talk. I appreciate you taking some time out and waking yourself up early this morning and giving me a call and talking with us.
Hey, thank you very much. Like I say, just want to shout out to all my teams. Love you guys. Thanks for all your hard work. And thank you very much, Tuba, for having me on the show. Be glad to do it again anytime you need someone.
Absolutely, man. I'll have to take you up on that.
All right. Have a good one.
And that's our interview with SIGAP Magic Mike. And thanks a lot for calling in, man. That was a great interview. Glad to have you on. And that's going to do it for this week and Dot Talk. Tuba Samurai on with you. Make it a great week. I'll be back next week.
Sorry for what I've done. I realize now you only wanted to have a little fun. I just can get those pictures out of my head. I realize now it meant so little to you, just a bit of a thrill knowing I had to. I hope we can put this behind us. Can we just pretend that this never happened? Is that possible? Hey, the jelly in my mind. I'm begging for your